I'm here today to speak on behalf of the House Republican Caucus in support of Senate Bill 390, an act concerning penalties for certain election crimes. First, I'll say what the bill does, and then I'll say why. The bill creates mandatory minimum sentences of 12 months for specific election crimes. These are crimes that exist in Title IX right now. These are our most egregious campaign finance or election crimes that we face right now. But let me tell you why. It is no secret that here in the state of Connecticut, election fraud is real. It happens all the time. We don't like to talk about that. We don't like to admit that. But when it's caught on camera, we're given no choice. And that is exactly what happened in this past municipal election. As you may recall, an individual was seen stuffing ballots, absentee ballots, into a publicly placed absentee ballot box. You'd think this was the first time that that had happened, but it wasn't. It had happened a few years earlier, and in fact, the perpetrator was the exact same individual. Now, so why is this proposed legislation before us? Because we have a track record here in Connecticut of not punishing crimes like that. In fact, we have a track record of, in some ways, rewarding it. The individual I just referenced, who stuffed absentee ballots into a ballot box, was just reelected last night as vice chair of her local party committee. It wasn't punished. It was celebrated and rewarded. And I don't think that's a system we should have. I don't think that's a system that we should accept. And that is what this bill is intended to do. We have a situation right now where it is almost better to commit the crime and pay the small fine than to not commit the crime in the first place. In the last 25 years, not one person in Connecticut has received a prison sentence for election fraud. Yet we know there are multiple instances of it happening. And that is what the bill that is before you is intended to do, to correct that situation, to right that wrong. And if at the end of the day, the bill before you deters election fraud, ensures that even one election is honest, especially in a legislature like ours where people win by 1 or 2 or lose by 1 or 2 votes, that really matters. So that is why the bill is before you. That is why I am before you to speak in favor of it. I know you have a busy schedule, so I'll end my remarks there, but I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Representative, for your testimony. Are there any questions? Representative Mastrofrancesco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Perillo. Appreciate your testimony today. I had a conversation earlier with the Secretary of State, and you made the exact point that I was trying to make, as well as that the laws that we have in the books right now aren't doing anything. Certainly the person who is committing the ballot fraud or the election fraud knows our laws and knows that they are going to just get a slap on the wrist, and certainly they will not go to jail. And it is always my belief that there has to be fair and there has to be ramifications for any election fraud. But you did mention that in 25 years, and I asked this question to the Secretary of State and they didn't have the answer. Nobody has went to jail, although it is an option that they can go to jail for committing election fraud. Nobody in Connecticut has gone to jail for any election fraud. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is unbelievable. So obviously our laws on the books are not working. I think this piece of legislation is very, very significant. I honestly can't see how anybody would be opposed to it because what we're doing right now is not working.